Good morning and welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. My name is Lincoln Shrike, joined today by Gordon Mack. It is Wednesday, April 15th. Under normal circumstances, we'd be starting the middle of the college track season and high school track season. It would be tax day, but of course we're not in normal circumstances. Gordon, how are you doing?
Doing good. I listened to your pod. I did not listen to your pod yesterday, so I apologize, but heard it was a great one. You broke down the top Bowerman races in your opinion, both Lincoln's opinion and Kevin's opinion. So I imagine it was a great debate. What was you don't need to reveal what it was. Make people listen to the pod if they want to hear your top Bowerman races. But as people know, this week is Bowerman Week on our site, coming up with these great themes. So we thought before we started recording this pod, we would do a little projecting into the future of who we think will be the next Bowerman newbies. Who are the next Bowerman signees coming to that track club? It seems like, I always think about they have everyone they need, and then all of a sudden they get Carissa Schweizer. And you're like, okay. And you're like, they have everyone they need. And all of a sudden they get Josh Thompson, who is now like a top 3 contender in the U.S. in the 15. So even though we think they're set, I remember I mentioned to Kevin that I think they have 8 women who can make the Olympic team in 2021. So 8 women who can make team. You kind of don't really have much room to add more, but Jerry's got that Jerry magic, and he can always find new talent where he needs to. So I thought, let's talk about who we think are going to be the next Bowerman Track Club runners. Who is Jerry eyeing? Could it be someone who is a senior this year? Could it be someone who's a junior this year, will be a senior next year? We break down who we think will be potential Bowerman future employees.
Yeah. If this was a sport a la baseball or basketball or football, I think the Bowerman Track Club would be out of cap space at this point. They would have come up against, they would have at least hit the luxury tax if it wasn't a hard cap, because they have everybody. I know Nike Oregon Project formerly had some of the other talented runners in the country, some of the most talented Nike athletes, but with that being defunct now, it's like, is everyone just going to go to Jerry Schumacher? Can he continue to coach more and more athletes? But you look at it and you see the next talented athlete and you're like, unless they're an 800 runner, obviously, or below, you assume good chance they're going to go to the Bowerman Track Club with Jerry Schumacher. Last year, Grant Fisher, that was a slam dunk. That was just obvious that he was going to go to the Bowerman Track Club. And there seemed to be maybe no obvious cases a la Fisher from last year. And particularly so when you add in that we don't know if anyone's going to sign this year simply because of the COVID-19 situation canceling basically everything. However, there's still some top NCAA athletes that it would be no surprise if they went to the Bowerman Track Club. So I'll start with the first name, and we'll kind of just riff on each athlete, maybe why we think they might go to Bowerman and maybe why they won't. So the first name I'll go with, Danny Jones.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say before we go, obviously Danny Jones is the top contender to be on the Bowerman, but I kind of want to break down what the current roster has and where we feel like there's openings. So
no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So looking on the women's side, did a rough estimate. They probably have one 800-meter runner. That's Kate Grace. 2 1,500 runners in Shelby and Elise Craney. Now Kate Grace can move over to the 15 as well, so they could have 3. 2 5K runners in Fraser and Schweizer. Again, assuming Shelby stays in the 15. 3 10K runners, which is Marielle Hall, Emily Enfeld, and Gwen Jorgensen, and then 2 steeplers, right? So when you think about it, they really only have the opportunity to add 1 per event, right? Because they're kind of maxed out. Because you don't want more than 3 in an event, right? Because then it gets a little, hey, what are we doing here? We're guaranteeing someone's not going to make a team if we're all perfect. They have a lot more room in the 800, but I think it's one per event max for the women. Now, on the men's side, they have no 800-meter runners. They have two 1,500, you could say, in Centro and Thompson. And then they have a lot of 5K guys. They have Fisher, they have McGordy, they have Lopez, they have Ryan Hill, they have Kincaid. So 5 guys in a 5K, it seems like they have a little too much. They might need to start figuring out ways to get, maybe we need Grant Fisher to become a steepler or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I just see one 10K guy and 0 steeplers, right? And then
as far as the
American we're talking American
guys.
We're talking Americans only right now. Obviously, they have their non-American guys, and then you have Bumby and Derek in the marathon, but we're not really thinking about marathon right now. But basically, on the U.S. track side, they're really heavy in the 5K range for the men, so we have to keep that in mind. Kind of light in the 800 and then in the 10K. They're light in the 10K and no one in the steeple. So, with that information, let's start drafting or potentially big boarding our Bowerman Track Club 2020 team, 2021 team.
And of course, just a quick added, just no one in the steeplechase, of course, Evan Jager, but
Evan, sorry, I forgot.
Who I ranked number 1, the best Bowerman athlete of all time. But that's neither here nor there. It happens.
Sorry, you forget that
you were doing it.
Run since 2017, so you're like, you don't think about it.
Yeah. You were doing it off the top of your head, which is pretty impressive. Okay, so we can go to my first. If there was a theoretical draft and Bowerman Track Club had every draft pick, one of the first selections they would make is Danny Jones as a candidate. I mean, she's done everything you could want. Won cross country, won the 5K, won the mile, anchored a DMR. I'm sure I'm missing one in there. She won a 3K as well at some point. I mean, she's done basically everything. She seems like a pretty good case, unless they're really focused on what you're talking about there in that 1,500. And they say, well, no, we think Kate Grace is going to stick in the 15 rather than the 8. And they say, well, we don't want more than 3 1,500 runners. Do you think she's someone that's going to be signing with them whenever it is in the next year or so?
Well, I do still think there is potential to slide a Danny Jones talent into that team because they can find ways to, throw her in the 5. Because we thinking of 2 5K runners, right? In Fraser and Schweizer. Dan Jones can work her way up into 5K and be that third star in that event. But I really think that we're not talking about draft here. We're talking about free agency, right? There's no draft in track. Yeah. And it's all about putting your pitch to join your team. And I really think it's going to be really hard to pull Danny Jones away from Mark Wetmore and training with Jenny Simpson. Like, that's just going to be really hard. And I think that Danny Jones has already, not that she's committed, but like in a way, she's already signed on a dotted line with, training with Jenny, training with Mark and Heather. And I think that maybe she'll take an interview, but I think she knows she's going to, stay with Jenny and stay in Colorado. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of got that New Balance like mode a la Emma Coburn. And you mentioned Jenny Simpson as well. She seems like she has that kind of written all over her. That said, I mean, Jenny Simpson, yes, is still very, very good, but she's entering, her mid 30s. And so possibly for Danny Jones to say, I want someone to train with for the next 10 years of my professional running career, perhaps she says, I think I'm going to get that more at the Bowerman Track Club. I mean, Nike is obviously the brand that sponsors the Colorado Buffaloes. And just because Simpson and Coburn have done New Balance doesn't mean the same is going to be the truth of Danny Jones, even both of those women were basically identical to her as far as having outstanding careers at Colorado and then going on to, Emma was coached by Wetmore, and then she went on to her husband as a coach. But, it seems like that's where the path Danny Jones would go. But at the same time, if you look at it, if she says, yeah, I would want to be coached by my college coach. However, my training partner here, Jenny Simpson, may not be here for 10 more years, the kind of the crucial period of my career. So maybe I joined Bowerman Track Club. That's my only thinking. I don't know what you think of that idea. A little bit of a stretch.
I think that'd be kind of hard because I think, I mean, who has Jenny's training partner been like during her 10-year run? Like, I don't think you really need to have like a great training partner to be a great runner. I think you just need a great environment, great coach. And I think, if anything, Danny kind of can look at like, Mark and Heather give, obviously the primary focus is their college team, but they give a lot of their focus towards Jenny because she's like one. I'm not sure if they have any other pro athletes. They might have one. I'm not sure. But Jenny gets a lot of the attention and like the focus. And eventually, once Jenny's not in her prime anymore, that focus, she could be the next one to like carry the mantle of like the marquee pro athlete in the Burroughs Wetmore post collegiate, training. So like she may look at it like, hey, Jenny's not going to be the person who's they're going to be focusing on in 2024, 2028. I could be that person. So
yeah, I just look at it. I just look at it as on the Bowerman side. You look at somebody like Shelby Houlihan, who wasn't even as accomplished as Danny Jones has been in college, and now she's running 354, 1434. Schweizer was accomplished, but I don't think anyone thought she was going to be running 825 a couple years after college. Courtney Frericks is the American record holder. It's just the numbers that Jerry Schumacher has that you think might be alluring, that might be able to pull her away from Boulder. I still think odds-on favorite would be sticking with Wetmore and Burroughs, signing with New Balance for Jones, but I think Bowerman will have a good case to sign her.
Yeah, and in a weird way, I remember during right before indoors, we're talking about what Danny Jones was attempting to pull off of like winning an indoor 800-meter title and having that incredible range from 800 all the way up to the 6K at cross country, and a lot of people were trying to figure out like what's this comparison like, and they were using other athletes like Lopez Lemong, who are like showed that they have great cross country strength, but they're also really good in speed. But one athlete that we kind of all just forgot about, and it's been right in front of our eyes this entire time, is Shelby Houlihan in college. Yeah. Had a very similar like resume as what Danny Jones had. I mean, Shelby in cross country, I mean, obviously she was second in the 1500, had like that, she got out leaned. But Shelby was good. She ran a 2:01 in the 8, which is like what Danny Jones is running. And in cross country, she was a top 10 runner. Like, obviously she didn't win, but she finished top 10 once, twice. She was 4th one year, so she was top 10 3 years in cross country. And she had the range of a 4:09 1500, 4:28 mile. She was a 15:49 5K. So Shelby, in a way, is kind of like a version of what Danny is. And if we look at Shelby now, Danny has the toolbox to become potentially an American record holder, chaser, an elite 1500-meter runner with 5K range. So Jerry would take Danny and turn her into Shelby 2.0, I think.
Yeah.
But Mark Wetmore also could turn Danny into Jenny Simpson 2.0. So I guess either way, it's going to be a win for Danny.
I would guess so if those are the options she comes down to. I think one thing that could push her or keep her in Boulder would be the fact that, we're not taking visits to pro teams right now. Maybe you can do it via Zoom or a phone call, but not being able to take a plane out to Portland and to talk to Schumacher may be a big factor, not just for Jones, but for a lot of athletes that are trying to make a decision now. They may be holding off on all these decisions until next year, so that could be a moot point because there's all contracts could be dried up right now. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting case to see where Jones goes.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, Jerry will make a push for her, but I think in the end, Danny's going to reject Jerry for Mark Wetmore. That's what I think.
All right, I'm going to stick on the women's side. We all know the Wisconsin pipeline with Jerry Schumacher has been strong in the past. He was a former coach there, and when you look at guys like Evan Jager, Chris Solinsky, Mo Ahmed, Simon Byru, the Wisconsin connection has been strong throughout the years. Alicia Monson, Wisconsin just announced they're not going to be honoring the extra spring season of eligibility that the NCAA granted. Not really sure about that. That's a strange one. But Alicia Monson basically said in an article there, yes, this probably just means I'm going to go pro. So Alicia Monson, NCAA champion, long-winded way. Is she going to be on the Bowerman Track Club?
I'm going to say I don't think so.
Okay. Will you stick with Mick or stick with her, not Mick, but or her coach? I'm sorry, I'm dropping the ball.
Wartenberg? Is it
Wartenberg? Yeah, something like that.
Not Wartenberg. No, sorry. Oh, shoot. Oh, my goodness, anyway. I feel bad. The Wisconsin women's coach. I think that she's going to be I don't know. I see her signing with, like, getting, like, an ASICS deal or, like, getting, like, that one-off, like, an Under Armour deal. Under Armour I could see her taking Under Armour. I just think that I don't think she's going to go to a big group, I think she's going to stay. I think she's going to stay training in Wisconsin the same way how Morgan McDonald is staying training in Wisconsin. I think that she's going to get a deal. She's going to get a sponsorship deal, but I don't think she's going to join a training group. That's what I think.
And you got to convince me why. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, she's used to not really having like an elite training buddy with her. Like she's had her entire success without the need of a fellow 15, 30 runner with her, pushing her. So, I mean, she had some like 1545, 1550 girls with her, but I think she's going to, I don't know. I just don't see her joining a training group. I also, a lot of my takes are going to be that in order for Jerry to take you on when has literally no cap space, I really think adding a 5K woman or a 10K woman is just like, I'm only taking you if you're like the legit of the legit. And I think Danny Jones is the only woman who can make Jerry go into the luxury tax. Like that's what I think.
Now hold on. Alicia Monson was second in cross country this past fall. She won the indoor 5K. She's definitely the legit of the legit. And I would say, she had decent training partners. She had Amy Davis, who I think has been an All-American or close to it in the past. But I think Monson wants to take that next step by going to a team where she's not going to be the top athlete. Think of how much better Carissa Schweizer has got being on this team, and Vanessa Frazier. I don't think anyone thought Vanessa Frazier was going to be ready to run 14:48 just a year or two outside of college. And if Monson takes a step up, I think she'll be even better than that. I'm just saying, if you want to be somebody who's running in Olympic and World Championship finals in the U.S. a couple years removed from college, your best chance, in my estimation, is to go to the Bowerman Track Club. They have a spot open for the 5K, which is Monson's bread and butter. And look at that. That could be Frazier, Schweizer, and Monson, if she were to join. I mean, they could be the women's 5K team for the next 5 to 7 years in the United States.
Here's my reason why I'm not sold on Monson being the cream of the crop yet. Put the word yet. She can be. Is that she hasn't really proven to have like speed. I mean, her mile PR is 4:38. She's run a 4:25 1500. You compare that to what Schweizer was in college. Schweizer was a sub 4:30 miler in college. Obviously, Danny Jones sub 4:30 mile. I think like in order to excel in the 5K internationally and at the U.S. elite level, you need to be a really fast miler. You need to be able to run 4:30 or faster. And I just don't. Maybe Monson hasn't been put in an opportunity to do that. Maybe she's run some 4:30s and some DMRs that we don't really know about, right? But I don't know. I just don't put her in the speed category yet. Maybe she'll get it. Again, some people develop later. And, I mean, Monson could go on to be a multi-time U.S. champion and make me look like I don't know anything. Yeah. But my my opinion is that Jerry's looking for speedsters who have endurance, who have range. That's what I think. So
Yeah, I mean, I just think maybe in that program there's not as much for their distance runners a focus on running. I know she's run a mile and done okay at it, but not great. But you have to have speed to win an NCAA title, no matter which distance. And two, I mean, I don't know. Morgan McDonald didn't like rip a fast 1500, and no one doubts his finishing speed. And like I think he ran 3:55 in the mile. I don't know. It's just
3:55
like,
is a lot better than.
No, of course.
Showed he had speed. He was always a sub 4 miler. That's enough speed to prove that he had it.
I just don't think she's done. I don't think there's a big enough sample size to think like her speed doesn't play. You get second in cross country. That's good enough. I mean, did Mo Ahmed like flash elite wheels at Wisconsin before he signed with the Bowerman Track Club? I mean, I feel like she's done enough by virtue of what she's done in the longer distances to say that she has the speed, and it's obviously something that can be developed. Tell me what. Are you
I'm looking at Mo Ahmed. Mo Ahmed
like
rarely ran like 1:1500 his entire time in college.
It's a Wisconsin thing, man. If you're a longer distance runner, it's like you're only going down to the 3K basically. Because Morgan McDonald ran 3:55 in college, but it was outside the NCAA season. He did that in St. Louis in June. So I'm just saying, I think it's a program thing, not an athlete thing for Monson.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give you that.
Okay.
But I still think Jerry is, like we said, no cap space, and I think Jerry's going to be looking for a like 800, 1500 athlete. That's what I think. I don't think he's going to be looking for a 5K, 10K runner because he just has too much. That's what I think. I think he's looking for someone who could drop down into the 800.
Do you have somebody in mind in that regard? I'm trying to think of who you would be referring to. Somebody who could drop down to the 800.
Nia Atkins.
I mean, she's a pure 800 meter runner though at this point.
I think Jerry might need to just start like, hey, let's get ready for taking over Derek Thompson's group and start like taking some of his spots away from the 800. And let Kate Grace kind of lead that charge. I don't know. I just think that I think the big move that Jerry will make is he's going to add an 800 meter runner. That's what I think. I think that 5K, 10K, 15 steeple, he's just packed to the brim. And in the next 4 years, he's going to want to keep this group. I mean, I don't think you need to go from like 8 Olympians to like, we need 2 more to get to 10. I think he already is I think he's the one place where he clearly can find an opportunity is in the 800. And I think someone like Nia Atkins would be that person, in my opinion.
I don't know what her training regimen is, but I mean, is she going to have somebody to run with? Like, is she going to train like a 1500 meter runner? I mean, that could be a total departure from what she did at Penn.
I mean, let's look at, she ran some 15. She ran, and I mean, I'm looking at her like she's run a couple of thousands and 1500s in her training. Obviously, she was running the 800 major. What's the word?
Primarily?
Primarily, that's what I'm trying to say. But she's run a 4:16 1500 and a 2:43 and a 2:43,000. I mean, she won the Ivy League mile this past season. So I think
the hotly contested Ivy League mile.
She was slowly like moving up. I mean, let's look at this 1500 she ran last year. She got smoked. She got smoked by AJ Wilson and Sierra Brown in a 1500. But again, she was a junior in college and not really yet to like break out. But I think someone like Nia Atkins is Nia might also go to Derek Thompson's group because it's in Philly, right? Yeah. You get to train with Raven and AJ Wilson. So that might make more sense in a way. But hey, Jerry likes smart kids, right? So why not take the Penn grad?
His how many Ivy Leaguers they have on the team? Just one? Just Kate Grace? Maybe
Uh,
they need to add it. They need to add a new
yeah,
one. And yeah,
yeah, exactly. Kate
okay.
Grace. Look at that. They could both train in the 800. Both talk about being Ivies. It's perfect.
I think you
Perfect.
made the argument. I think you made the argument for Akins. She's in Philadelphia already. There's the best 800-meter training group in the country in Philadelphia. I mean, maybe she wants. I don't know how the training is in Philly, but I assume it's okay if it's developed Ajay Wilson and Raven Rogers. I mean, Raven Rogers, it was so important for her. She left Oregon, didn't go home to Texas. She decided to go all the way to Philadelphia. So I think Aikens already being there, that makes the most sense for her.
But at the same time, Jerry could kind of play Derek Thompson's being over to Cap in the 800 against him.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry can go to Nia, sit down with the parents and Nia and Coach Steve Dolan of Penn. Like, hey, hear me out. Derek Thompson, you're going to be his third, fourth best 800-meter priority. Here, you'll be my
Mm,
number one priority in the 800. I'm going to tell Kate Grace to go over on the 1500, and you get the 800 all to yourself. So come out to
it's fair.
Portland, and I will wine and dine you, and I will create you into a perennial 800-meter world qualifier.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's maybe the best argument you've had there. That's not bad. I like that.
so that's what I think.
Mm.
Should we move over to the men's side? I mean, is there any other woman out there that you think can crack into the current Bowerman team?
It wouldn't be this year because I know she redshirted, but eventually Taylor Warner is going to make sense. So, but she redshirted the indoors, and so she's going to have an entire track season this next year in 2021 to come back for. And we already know she was going to plan to come back because NCAA's is at Arkansas, but she's somebody long term that makes sense. Otherwise, on the women's side, I mean, there's going to be people clearly coming up, but no one screams Bowerman at the right now, other than, well, to me, Monston Jones the most. But I could be missing somebody.
About
But
like
I
someone
think
like a
that
Katie Rainsberger?
could be, yeah. She hasn't been elite for the last few years, but maybe a little Bowerman Track Club reclamation project for Jerry Schumacher. Yeah, that's certainly possible.
What about a Whitney Orton?
I would see her sticking in Provo, and then you also have Erica Burke Jarvis. Maybe those two women from BYU. They've been
Ooh,
really good, but it seems like the BYU athletes like to stick in Provo, be it the men's side with Ed Eyestone or on the women's side. So we'll see, but I would assume that's not going to happen.
what if Jerry plucked both Orton and Burke Jarvis, threw Burke Jarvis in the steeple to be their third steepler with Quigley and Frericks, throws Orton to be the kind of dynamic, can drop all the way down to the 800, all the way up to the 5K to kind of fill in the spot where
Mm.
they have the biggest hole. Because Orton has range. Orton's kind of like
Oh
a
yeah.
like a first year Danny Jones type caliber. I mean, she showed a range of going down from the mile all the way up to the 5K. Did well in the 6K across. Doesn't have the prolonged resume that Danny Jones has. But what if he went for like get those two BYU ladies in? Man, that'll be a good dynamic, and then they can be roommates together. When they're training out
There you
in
go.
park. And where do they train? They train in Utah, right? So be perfect.
For altitude camp.
Park
They've also
City.
been in
Yeah.
Colorado Springs. I would imagine that I think Mormon athletes leaving Utah is less likely, but I'm not Mormon and I don't know the scenarios. Obviously, there's Mormons outside of Utah, but I don't see that. I mean, Jared Ward didn't leave, Clayton Young, Connor McMillan. Sure, there's other athletes I'm not thinking of. I mean, Rory Linkletter did, so maybe that's an example of people who are leaving Utah. But yeah, I don't know. They definitely have the talent to be on the team, but will they want to leave just for other reasons? I don't think so.
And One last woman to keep in mind, an eye on. I'm sure Jerry is already thinking about Caitlin Tui. Is he thinking? Is he thinking like, all right, what's my Tui 2024 plan? Is that in his mind?
Yeah.
When
It's
do
just
you
so.
think these college coaches think about? Do they wait till junior year, or are they thinking about them after they see some freshman stars pop up, some sophomore stars? When do they start planning?
Oh, college coaches are. I mean, in college basketball, they're recruiting them in 7th and 8th grade. Running's a little bit different, of course, because you just don't know where development or interest is going to go. But I mean, Caitlin Tui's been on every coach's radar since she was a freshman when she was dominating. So yeah, I'm sure he is, but you have to see how she fares in college because there's a chance with Tui. I don't think this will happen, but there's a chance that she may not get a whole lot better just based on how good she was in high school. Not a guarantee, but we've just seen that too many times before with prep stars, especially on the women's side. That it's not like it's not going to be an Evan Jager situation where she's leaving college to go to the Bowerman Track Club after 1 year.
I know. I just want to think of one last big
Yeah.
name because
No,
Jerry
that's
likes the
good.
names, right? You got to go for the big
Yeah.
names. So,
There you go.
all right, should we move over to the men's side?
Yes. If we're gonna, we started with Colorado on the women's side. Let's do it on the men's side. Joe Klecker. Now we know the logjam of 5,000 meter runners on Bowerman, so that could be the tricky part. That maybe Bowerman says we'd love to have you, but we don't have room for you. But does the Klecker Schumacher connection make sense at all to you?
Yes, it does, but timing wise, it doesn't. Right? You just he's it's one of those things where like, yeah, you work here, but at the same time, I mean, unless you can switch nationality and go represent some random island in the Mediterranean or something like that, so you can still make a world team and not have to take one away from Kincaid, Hill, Lopez, McGorty, Fisher. I mean, a lot of times, like I think people forgot about Woody Kincaid for a hot minute, and then everyone got reminded, introduced to him this past 2019 season when he was there in the top 3 at USA's. Goes on to run sub 13 in Portland. So like Jerry's just so deep in the 5K, and we don't even know what McGorty can bring and what Fisher can bring. Because Fisher, he's been dealing with some injuries. He didn't run USA's last year, so and Fisher has that talent. So and Hill, he's trying to make a comeback. Ryan Hill has proven that he can do it. I mean, you would think this is what would need to happen. I mean, if Klecker were to come in, he would need to tell Lopez like, hey, you can do the 5K, but if my guy gets 4th, you're scratching the 5K to do the 10K. So, and you need to start, moving Hill up to the 10K maybe. So you have a team of, I don't know, like you got to spread it out, right? Maybe you move McGorty down to the 1,500 because McGorty's got some wheels. So then you have McGorty, Centro, and Thompson in the 15, and then the 5K you have Fish, Woody, Klecker, and then at 10K you have Hill and Lamont. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, the argument I would think that would say they're fine with creating, or giving themselves an extra supply of 5,000 meter runners is, I know Fisher's a special case, but they didn't have any hesitation signing Fisher when they already had McGorty, Kincaid, and Lamont. And plus, Lamont is, yes, he's arguably had the best year of his career last year, but he's 34. This isn't going to last forever. So he'll be retired within the next 5 years. And, McGorty and Fisher probably aren't ready to make teams yet. That may be a couple years away still yet. And so you look at, we have guys in the 5,000 who are major leaguers, Lamont and Kincaid, and then Hill, if he can kind of get back to his level of 3-4 years ago. And then we kind of have developmental minor league guys. They're AAA guys. They're on the cusp, but Grant Fisher and Sean McGorty. And so why not just add another one? You have your 3 that are at the majors right now, Hill, Lamong, and Kincaid. And when those guys move on, either go to the 10K or retire, then we got our next wave. So they're building out their roster, not just for 2021, but for 2025.
I like that. That's a good point. I do like, you know, sometimes you like to think about the now only and like, all right, well, how
No.
does this work in 2021? Where really you got to think like signing Klecker in 2020. We want to have him. We want Joe Klecker in 2024, right? We want Joe Klecker
Right.
as like a 25, 26, 27-year-old who's like in his prime. And you don't get that unless you sign him when you have a logjam, but the logjam clears up, years down the road. So I guess I can see that. Yeah,
I just
that's a
think
good point.
he can be really, really good. And he didn't get that chance because he was coming into his own right when the virus hit and track stopped. And it seemed like he had a really good chance to win titles in Albuquerque. And then obviously moving on to outdoors. I just think we have not seen the best of Joe Klecker yet. I think he's got good speed, as he showed by running 401 at whatever it was in Boulder and over 5,000 feet of altitude and converting to 355. Like, he is tailor made for the Bowerman Track Club.
Yeah, and I think, but he also could be tailor made for staying in Boulder with Mark Wetmore. But I mean, I guess Colorado really hasn't had that many, like, I guess the most recent male star, not really star, but I guess Ben Sorrell was there, but Ben Sorrell was dealing with injuries and didn't really have as much. Like, Joe Klecker clearly has had a better career than Sorrell, but Sorrell freshman year, man, he got like third indoor 3K or something like that. Sorrell, just got hamstring with injuries, so maybe he's a bad example. But has there been another like Colorado athlete? What's the last Colorado male athlete to have like the star power on the track? I can't.
Oof.
Right? I mean,
yeah, they're obviously not a hugely track focused program, and they haven't had that like stud. Yeah, that's tough. I can't think of. I mean, they definitely had they definitely had national qualifiers, but no one on the level of Klecker for a while. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Colorado, you kind of leapfrog like 10 plus years or 15 plus years, and you go to the Ritz, Gouchers, in that time era. But like, to kind of, there just hasn't been like, there's been great guys who can be top 10 and cross and be all American on the track, but there hasn't been someone like Klecker, So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Wetmore really hasn't had the need to create a male focused post collegiate group, right? But maybe Klecker's the start of that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. No, it's. I think of all the names we've said so far, I think he's the strongest likelihood. We have no idea. We have no inside information, as we would like to say, not reporting this at all. We have no idea what's going on, and no one's signed in the month plus since indoors. The season wrapped up. So I don't foresee any signings coming down the pipeline anytime soon. But I feel that one in my bones. I think Klecker is going to be on the Bowerman Track Club. Okay.
Here's my thing. I think there's another athlete who I think is more likely to be on the Bowerman Track Club than Klecker, and I even think would be chosen over Klecker. And I'm going. Oh, wow. I think Tyler Day. I think Tyler Day has proven that he has made a big leap this past indoor season with his quick 5K and 3K times, and he is like he's a 10K guy, right? And Jerry doesn't have a lot of 10K guys right now, right? His 10K guys all moved on to the marathon, Derek and Bumby. He still has Lopez, but I think Tyler Day would fit right in to be their strong, like, new 10K guy, like their AAA 10K guy behind Lopez. And you look at the 10K, it's kind of open, right? You have Lopez, you have Shadrack, and then that third spot is kind of like, who is it, right? It's whoever wants to do it.
Career's coming back, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, but career's coming back. But like, career obviously is has a foot out the door, right? He has a foot out the door to be in the marathon. And you have the people who are like taking that third spot or even that second spot in the 10K are like people who like, oh, like Hassan Mead, okay, I'm going to do a 10K this year. Or like Ben True, okay, I'm going to do a 10K. Like no one is like, I'm a 10K guy. It's all 5K guys being like, all right, yeah, I'll do the 10K because there's an extra chance or an extra spot. Where I think Tyler could go all in on that 10 and going up against people who are coming off a missed opportunity in the 5, he can strike and be a top 3 guy. Because he now shows he has the wheels, right?
Yeah.
T-Day he doesn't look like he has wheels. That's what's crazy about it. He looks like just like a typical like grinded out 10K guy, but he's quick, right? He's a sub 4 quality miler, right? So I just think Tyler Day is a perfect spot for that because he'll do the 10K and then eventually move up to the marathon and he'll keep that going for Jerry. I think that's what I think. I think Tyler Day is the more appropriate choice.
I see the fit. However, I think the overwhelming likelihood with Day is 2 options. Well, 1, he's going to stay in Flagstaff. And then 2, he's either going to stay coached by Mike Smith or he's going to go to NAZ Elite, rejoin his old pal, Matt Baxter. That makes the most sense by far. Like, and he's ultimately going to be a marathoner. And like, I'm not saying Jerry can't coach marathoners. Obviously he can, but training in Flagstaff, he's from Arizona. Like that all makes too much sense for Tyler Day. He's an Arizona lifer. Like he's a huge Phoenix sports fan. Like being in Flagstaff by far makes the most sense for him. And if he wants to stay with Smith, he's right there. If not, like go across the street to Ben Rosario. Like that those are just super easy. And again, especially in times where choosing training groups is not allowing, you're not allowed to, travel to places to go visit. I just think that makes way too much sense to think he would switch situations and go to the Bowerman Track Club. Would he have higher quality training partners? Yes, certainly. And maybe it gives him a better chance to make a team, but it's not like Rosario and Smith are too much lesser of coaches than Schumacher. Like those are good coaches and he would have plenty of opportunities there and could get a better contract out of either, joining Hoka or going out on his own if he was to stay in Flagstaff. So that would be my estimation.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the staying, right? And the Mike Smith stuff, I mean, makes sense. But at the same time, like, I don't think Mike Smith is trying to create a post-collegiate group. So I think that Mike is going to be like, hey, I'll coach you, but like it's going to be all on you and you're not going to get the amount of attention that I'm giving, Drew Bosley and Nico Young. I mean, Galen Rupp isn't even in Flag, right? He's coaching Galen Rupp via email, right? He's like the perfect pandemic coach in a way for Galen Rupp, right? It's just nothing changed, right? He just kept on opening Zoom, but I just think, yes, it makes sense for Tyler Day to go to NAZ or to stay in Flag under Smith. But that is something we all were saying in November of 2019, even in December of 2019, right? But I think his indoor year, he wasn't going to – I think Jerry was never going to call him, right? He was never going to get a phone call from Jerry. But after his indoor season, he's getting a phone call from Jerry. And I think it's just like when you get a phone call from the best U.S. track team, the U.S. training group, you can't be like, nah, my loyalty lies to my roots in Arizona and to my former college teammate and to my college coach. You're going to listen. Yeah. You're going to listen to Jerry. You're going to listen to his pitch. And he's going to have a good pitch. He's going to be like, hey, you want to train with Lopez Lamont? And he's an NAU alum. You could be – he needs another. He wants to talk about Flag. Someone to talk about Flag with, right? So
that's a good point.
I just think that it's hard to say no to Jerry, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think if he says I have a spot for you, you don't want to be like no, thank you. I don't know. It's hard, right?
Yeah. When he ran 13, 16, and 7:45, he definitely got a lot closer to the Bowerman Track Club. I mean, that
Yeah.
those times are put him squarely in the mix, especially you're right in the 10K, of which, you know, he could already be a top 5 guy at this point, you know, in the,
Yeah.
granted for the Olympics, he'd have to run in the 27:20s, and that's no guarantee, he can also just get that wherever he goes. But yeah, you're right. If Mike Smith is, wholly focused still on NAU, which he will be, and Day is like, no, I want somebody that's putting all their energy, not all, but their energy into me and isn't coaching a college team. Well, he definitely ran himself into consideration with the indoor season he had.
So, any other wild cards that we talk about on the men's side?
Well, speaking of Wisconsin, and I know he's Australian, but Ollie Hoare, they've never, at least to my knowledge, had an Aussie on the squad. I think Morgan McDonald took a visit to Bowerman Track Club. I just don't know if maybe there's just never been a fit, or if they're not looking to add Australian athletes. Of course, we know they have a Canadian in Mohamed. They have Mark Scott, and so it's not like they're not taking international talent. But you see Ollie Hoare possibly as a logical piece going to Portland. I don't personally. I know I brought it up, but I don't. I could see him staying in Wisconsin doing the Under Armour thing, the same as McDonald, but I don't know. It's an option.
Yeah, I mean, I can see either way. I think because obviously he's not American, the cap space on the men's side it's completely open, right? It's just whatever we don't care if you do any whatever event you're doing, it's fine, right? Because you're not taking anyone's spot. But I mean, I guess it comes down to Ollie's 15 guy, right? He's not trying to become a 5K runner, and like, do you want to be training with Morgan McDonald? Or do you want to be training with Centro and Josh Thompson, right? Or do you want to be training with, whether he goes to goes to Flag and trains with like Ches and that like, and Blake, what's like that the Stephen Haas group that's starting, that Under Armour group, right?
Yeah, I forget that it's something Flagstaff, like I think is in the name. I forget exactly, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a possibility.
I think Ollie is going to. I don't think Ollie's going to go, and I really think that Jerry is going to kind of lowball Ollie, because I think he wants to put all of his efforts into wooing Nagus in 2 years. Yared.
Oh wow.
From Notre Dame. I think
so. Tanking for Nagus. Tanking for Nagus.
Nagus is a
Yared.
He went to Yared. Jerry went to Yared. But I think Nagus is the guy who I think Jerry's eyeing, and he still has to wait another year for him. Hell, maybe he'll be like, "Screw it, just come now, right? Let's do this. Let's get to Portland and start training." But I think Yared Nagus is the guy who Jerry's going to be eyeing in the 1500 realm. I mean, can you think of? Is there disagree? Agree?
Oh, eventually. I mean, he's not going to leave college early. I think he wants that Notre Dame degree, and then also he's that guy that always talks about his team. So I don't think he'd be the dude to leave school early to turn professional and do it into a different group. But certainly, I mean, Nagus is. If we mention Klecker is a guy that we haven't seen scratch their ceiling yet. Nagus is even more so, just because he hasn't. He's just started to be elite in the last year and a half, and previously he wasn't running individual events indoors, and I guess he still hasn't, but then he won that 1500 title. The guy's kick is probably the best in the NCAA. It makes all the sense in the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's who I think is like, if I had to like he's not really on the minds because he's a junior and not a senior, but I think Nagus is between Day, Klecker, Cooper Tier, Grijalva, Hoare, right? All these guys, James West, all these like legit distance runners. Nagus is number
Yeah.
one in my opinion because he has shown the most like potential. I think with his kick.
Oh yeah.
Some people.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it, Kevin, who kind of referred to him like maybe he's in the next Andrew Weeding, and I just think that uh, regardless of year or eligibility, amount of years eligible left in the NCAA, I think Jerry's going all in on trying to get Yared Nagus. That's what I think.
No, I don't think it'll be too hard of a sell. That makes all the sense of the world to me. And on the women's side, we looked long-term athlete. The men's side, let's do the same. We haven't even seen him in college yet. Heck, he didn't get a spring high school track season at all. But Nico Young, I mean, that's like the Grant Fisher move. Like that, he's been seems like he's destined to go to the Bowerman Track Club. A lot of things can change, but that's just way too obvious for me. Somebody's run 756 in high school and dominated cross country the way he did. That one seems in the bag.
Oh yeah, Nico Young is definitely on the minds of all like the pro teams. That from Brooks, NOP, formerly NOP, Pete Julian's group. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They all are thinking Nico Young's the guy we want in 2024 because he's going to be good. He's the Caitlin Tui, right? The next year is going to. I mean, the cross country storylines is going to be how good is Young and Tui as a true freshman. I mean, NAU might have the luxury of redshirting Nico Young and kind of depriving us of the opportunity to see what a true freshman Young can do. I mean, if you see what Drew Bosley does, you can't imagine what Nico does, right? But
yeah,
I could see Nico Young redshirting because he just doesn't adjust to 7 feet as well, right? And they have the depth that they don't need to run him. The Nico Young is going to be the guy that Jerry and company are going to be eyeing for 2024, 2028. I agree with that. So.
And then beyond that, I mean, he hasn't emerged yet as a superstar. But what's his son? What's the youngest Schumacher? He's at Stanford now, right? Josh Schumacher. I mean, come on. If he has like a decent career and his dad's like, I don't know, I don't think you're good enough. That could make awkward Thanksgiving.
So he DNF'd at Pac-12s. But maybe that's not a real DNF. That might be a DNS. I highly doubt he. So he ran.
He's a ways off. He's
a ways off. But he ran. He ran in the B race at Nuttycombe, and he got 7th.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
He beat. Some names that he beat. He beat DJ Principe. He beat some guys. Yeah. Right there behind Cade Burks.
And now that I'm thinking of the all nepotism Bowerman Track Club potential team, this one's a stronger case. Thomas Ratcliffe. I mean, his dad is the agent to a lot of these athletes. He's the head of Kimby Athletics. I mean, Ratcliffe, I know he's taken his lumps. He's shown immense potential and then had some struggles, across his career, all basically due to injuries. But that's a guy, you look at the connection there with his dad, Tom Ratcliffe, that one in a couple of years almost seems guaranteed as well.
Yeah, provided though that he's able to stay healthy, right? I mean,
of course,
I think
of course.
Tommy's going to need at least a year and a half of consistent, like healthy, elite running before he's going to be. I mean, he could be given a contract because whatever there's 0% agent's fees right on it because it's his dad will be his agent. That would be cool. Seeing Ratcliffe there, seeing McGordy, Ratcliffe, and Fisher all on the same pro team would be kind of cool.
Stanford and Chris Derrick if he's still around.
Chris Derrick.
One question I'm just thinking of: does his dad charge him agent fees? I mean, it feels like ethically you need to, but at the same time, like I don't want to be paying my dad.
Yeah, no, your dad better waive all fees. That's free.
Just free.
No, 100% free. If you're not a dad, if you're charging your son for a 3%, 5%, 20%, whatever it is, That's just not cool. I mean, you'll be like, all right, Dad, you're gonna charge me like you're not getting a Christmas gift, no birthday gift, right? It's just like I'm gonna dock 20% off of whatever I get. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go to a 20% less better nursing home when you're 85.
Oh,
That's what he's gonna say.
That'd be cruel.
I
That'd be
remember.
terrible. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we can call it there with the Ratcliffes and nursing homes and not paying your dad. That seems like a good place to end based on where we went with this one. This was a lot of fun. I don't know if we mentioned at the top, but the email flotrackpodcast@gmail.com is the address. Send us your messages. My son is coming in now to the show, so that's usually when it's time to say hi. How are you doing? My wife gave us quarantine haircuts yesterday, so I don't think it looks too bad. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks good.
So I don't want people judging me if they notice my hair was shorter. I did not go to the barber. Didn't break social distancing. I just got a homemade haircut last night. First time in my life. So you gotta make do at these times. Yeah, it looks good from through a camera at least.
There we go. All right. Until tomorrow, we'll see you guys.
See ya.